78 Sports TV here. Shout out to the LDBC. All right, one of my subs asked me a while ago to do a video on a couple of my favorite books, all right, or books that I would recommend for people, all right. Unfortunately, a few books that I would recommend, I do not have in my possession anymore due to letting people borrow them and not getting them back. One of those books is called Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. I repeat, Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. That is one of the best books I've ever written. Best books I've ever read. All right, you gotta check that out. Pound for pound, I think that's the best book, pound for pound, as far as for a beginner, for you to get a gist of what's going on, history and current knowledge, because a lot of books will give you history and not give you any practical practice of what you just learned. But Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma, I think it does an excellent job of that, and I always recommend that book to people who are just starting out in knowledge. Now, I have over maybe about 320 books, okay, in my collection of books. Most of them, a good portion, I would say a good 200 of them, are religious-based books, Christian, Muslim, Judaism, Yoruba, Voodoo, things of that nature. I actually have a degree in religious studies, okay? When I was, got into religion pretty heavy, I severely, deeply studied religion to get a proper understanding, and I was a truth seeker. I'm looking for the truth. I was like Bruce Leroy, searching for the master. You understand? But I'm well versed in religion, so I decided to keep my religious books out of this equation, and plus just to keep down the nonsense that goes on in the comment section from religious people. You understand? I think religion and religious discussions are very divisive, especially for black people. And though I'm educated on religion, I don't like talking about it with people because people get very, very emotional. People can be very rational thinking with other things, but when you get to religion, they lose their mind. So I try not to talk about it except for with people of a like mind. But one book that I'm going to show you here might look like a religious book, but in my opinion, it's not a religious book. It's Hebrew Israelite based, giving you a kind of a history of the Israelites and what they believe, but it's not. I wouldn't call it a religious book. It's not talking about the Bible too much and all that kind of stuff. But this is a very good book called From Babylon to Timbuktu, and it was a great read. I used to take this book to work with me back in the day and be reading it at lunchtime. And everybody, all the white folks be scared and shit, thinking you know what I'm saying, just, how it is. But another book, Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, collection of quotes and Marcus Garvey thoughts. Excellent book, excellent quotes, a lot of life lessons in this book, you understand. The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. This is a beautiful book. I would not recommend this book for a beginner because it goes into detail about a lot of things. Like I said, if you're just starting out, get Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. Okay, check that book out. All right, but understand the author of that book is a Muslim, so certain things are going to be slanted in favor of Islam. But don't believe everything you read anyway. Even in these books, read it, absorb it. Take note of it, and as you continue to study, you'll see contradictions and opposing views, and then you make your decision based off of the collection of things you read. You understand? But Chancellor Williams, one of our greatest, excellent book, from A to Z. This book was supposed to be a lot more detailed than it is. Very detailed, but it's supposed to be so much more. But he has some issues. I think he has some issues with financing, and he had to shorten the book up. All right, so he had to kind of compress a lot of stuff into a small book. but it's nice. Still pretty thick. Sheikh Anta Diop's book, African Origins of Civilization. Okay, Myth or Reality. Excellent book. One of the first books I read. There was, African centered. I was put onto this book while I was locked up. Somebody told me, check this out. I went to the library, got it, read this book loyally, faithfully. Absolutely wonderful book. Sheikh Anta Diop, another one of our greatest researchers, on the ground research, not talking about stuff he heard somebody else talk about, but on the ground. Sheikh Anta Diop. All right. Dr. Yusuf Ben Yaqinan, this is a very thin, small book, okay? Africa's Nile Valley, People, Culture, and History. All right. Dr. Yusuf Ben Yaqinan actually signed this book for me in the inside. Let me see if I can get that for you. Right here. In 2009, Dr. Ben was sick. He wasn't doing too good, but we took him out and let him eat some food. Took him to a little restaurant. And, Dr. Ben, one of our greatest teachers. Guys took some pictures with him and stuff. He's an excellent teacher, and I definitely recommend Dr. Ben's work. His name is Dr. Yusuf Ben Yaqinan. You can even watch some of his lectures on YouTube. Old lectures from him, Sheikh Anta Diop, Chancellor Williams. You can watch Dr. John Henry Clark stuff on YouTube. And those are the people I recommend. Another book, right? Anabolics. This is the 10th edition. This book, Anabolics, was put on to me by one of my homeboys. I told you I got a homeboy who, basically he manufactures, substances, steroids, hormones and shit like that, allegedly, By the way, this video is all for entertainment. Anything I might say like that is just all entertainment purposes. Don't be believing me, I'm a lying ass nigga. You know how that go, right? But allegedly he do all that kind of stuff. And this book, very thick book. You see how thick that is? Covers all anabolic steroids from A to Z, pro-hormones, all of that stuff from A to Z. He got all the editions. He read this stuff faithfully. He put me up on it. It's one of my favorite books. It's really just a bunch of drug profiles. It's not, it's a few jewels in there as far as like cycles and stuff like that. But if you just a researcher and you love just learning new things, this is the shit, in my opinion. Can't nobody argue with you about what steroids do or none of that shit. You read this book. You understand? Unless somebody with personal experience using the drugs, they will always have more knowledge than you. But this book here is the truth. Now, the king of all of them, okay? Dr. Amos Wilson, his book, The Blueprint for Black Power, okay? Let me let everybody understand something. This book scares a lot of people away by the size, the thickness of the book, and by the title, The Blueprint for Black Power. Many people, scary people, are under the impression, misguided people, under the impression that black power means dressing up in all black with a leather hat on and a bullhorn, yelling at white folks, calling them crackers and devils, right? But at the end, after you do all that, what got accomplished? What businesses were created? What black schools were created? You understand? What black politicians got put into office? What stores, black-owned stores and shit like that was created? Okay. This book covers the black experience and what needs to happen for black people better than any book, in my opinion. Any book that I've read, I should say. The Blueprint for Black Power it covers political, social, economic, everything you can think of about black people and what we need to do better, okay, to advance in this day and age and get to where we're supposed to be. But like I said, a lot of people have a misunderstanding about the term black power. They think that's a hateful term when in actuality black power simply means black empowerment. That's all it means. Okay, black schools for black people. All right, black laws for black people. Black, that's all it means. It doesn't mean, you run around dressing up in costumes and shit like the players' ball, stand on the corner yelling at white folk. That gets nothing accomplished. You gotta do the work, and that's what this book is going to explain to you by Amos Wilson. All right. So those are just a few of the books that I like. I got so many others, and there's so many others that I would recommend, but these are some of my favorites. You understand? Of course, you got, other books, but they're more religious angled, like Message to the Black Man, by Elijah Muhammad, How to Eat to Live, things like that. There's just a lot of books out there, man, but they're more religious based. I try to stay away from that in this video, but a lot of them, so those are the books I fucks with. 78 Sports TV. I holla.